one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I'd like to welcome everybody here to our October regular meeting. Need to amend and or accept tonight's agenda. Everybody have any amendments?
Make a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
Support.
We have motion support to accept tonight's agenda. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. At this time is time for public comment. Seeing none. Probably won't have any tonight. On to our routine matters. We need to approve the minutes from our September meeting. Did everyone have a chance to look those over?
They make that motion. Support.
All right, we have motion support to approve September's minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Need to consider general fund invoices for payment. Man.
Alright, so I'd like to make a motion to pay from the general fund checks 76048 through 76207 for $274,873.56. And food service checks 76049 through 76201 for $42,776.98.
Support.
All right, we have motion support for our invoices. Any questions or comments?
I had a couple of questions. Are some of these items in here going to be refunded from our bond proceeds? I know that some of the larger, like Kibbe and those will eventually come out of the bond proceeds.
Yeah, I've already moved the money back over now, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Another question I had was just kind of an observation. We paid $500 to Huntington Bank for what was it called? Sounds like some kind of a
Bond paying fee, bond paying agent fee.
No, it was an annual admin fee.
That's it's the bond paying agent fee.
Oh, I see.
Well, actually, when we make the bond payments, we submit the funds to them and then they
Okay.
submit
So
them
this
to where they have
this is
to
tied
go.
to the bond.
Yeah.
Okay, not our regular banking relationship with them. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. All right, we have motion support. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? On to item C. This is just a discussion item. This is our district data presentation and our school climate survey results.
Yeah, thank you. So every October, we usually give you our district data presentation from our state testing. And we have kind of giving an update of where we are as a district. We do this in October because typically we know that M-STEP scores will finally have them released, as well as our PSAT. And that kind of gives us a good idea of where our student count is. So I'll go ahead and start with our student count. As you can see right now, I guarantee you this has changed since I put this together because that's kind of the nature of schools right now. That didn't change, did it? It changed on my computer. You guys have any ideas on that?
I had done that.
We could do some voodoo or something.
Yeah.
Well, I can offer.
You clicked clicked your keypad?
Yeah.
What about the arrows on the keypad? Did you hit the
So it's
arrow to the
changing
right?
on here.
That's so strange.
Try and disconnect and restart.
Stop
Yeah,
sharing.
do that. Take it off of airplane.
Wait 10 seconds.
Everybody put your tongue to the left side of the mouth.
Restart's always a solution.
There we go, look at that.
Well, that's the screen I have up, so we'll see if it changes.
But it doesn't have a weird triangle thing in the
Yeah.
corner of the TV.
Okay.
It doesn't.
And it's going to that
It's
triangle
not
thing.
changing.
We can all just huddle around your computer.
Yes. I tell you what, Mr. Eisen, can we go ahead and I can work on this?
Yep,
If we wanna go ahead and jump down to the next,
okay,
if you're okay with that.
yep. We can jump right down to reports and communications. I don't have anything to report on, so you're on.
Well, gained a lot there, didn't we?
Yeah, appreciate that time stall.
Well, we've got the count up there that you had.
Yeah, but that was what it
It's
was
not
on
moving.
when I,
Oh.
I have it on my computer. Do you want me to try to AirPlay?
yeah, let me try to get off of there.
Just say I can bring it up too.
This is the board room.
Yes,
Yes.
yep.
Isn't a tech guy supposed to just rappel from the ceiling at this point? Up here and fix
I
it?
asked him to repel from the ceiling, but I haven't gotten a response yet.
There you go.
Well, it looks good so far. Hold on. Hey.
Hey.
There we go.
Alright.
We're good.
Alright, so if you look at our student, thanks, Mr. Wisner, and lifesaver, so you wanna use it. You see our student count there, we have, kindergarten, 85, first grade 83, second 81, third grade 83, fourth grade 89, and fifth grade 74. Sixth grade 100, seventh grade 94, eighth 72, ninth 73, 10th grade 82, 11th grade 75, and our 12th grade is at 79. So we're starting to see our larger class sizes start to filter through the middle school and the high school. When this was put together, we were at a student count of 1,070. I do believe that probably has fluctuated a little bit. I know we've had a couple more enrollees. Also know some students that have dropped. That have gone to, moved away. Our school of choice numbers for this year, as you see, our big draw is kindergarten. According to Mrs. Hill, over half of those are from our preschool program, school of choicing into kindergarten. First grade 1, second grade 2, and you guys can read those. Our next highest for 7th and 10th grade were 4 each. So our school of choice numbers, we are monitoring those. We do have the lottery system in place. We did have students enroll also in grade levels that were going to other schools, but live in our district. So we have to accept those students, and we gladly accept those students that live in our district. But so we did have some fluctuation or some increase with students that live in our district and have enrolled in McBain.
What does that bring our total schools of choice number to, Scott? You
It's
know?
gonna maintain about the same.
No, I mean the total, is it 43? Those are 43 additional.
Yeah, total, you're looking at probably around 300. We haven't-
Yeah, okay.
yeah, we haven't seen a
Not a
big
lot of
increase or decrease. No.
Okay.
No. But one good thing I thought we'd share with you guys too, and you'll see it from our data report from our survey coming up, that we've really been focused on our PBIS and our culture and climate and positive of school. And if you compare our last year's attendance rates compared to this year's attendance rates, we've seen a nice increase. And we credit to that through several things. Our truancy program, our attendance, we're focused on that, on getting our kids to school, but also our culture and climate of the district, the positivity of welcoming kids is, W is our, and wheel is for welcoming. And you can see kids are increasing. Now you're seeing a 0.7% increase, 1.3, 2.4. It doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're sitting at 95% to begin with, that's a substantial increase. So we're really proud of that. We're gonna continue monitoring that by quarter, so. And then Mr. Biller, do the high school presentation there.
Okay, a couple of things, I'll stand up over here just real quick. When we look at the high school, again, proficiency data, we look at the PSAT. Again, this is a College Board national test that is nationally normed. So when I say a freshman level benchmark score of meeting standards, this is a national thing, not just a state. But we do, and what you see here is McBain High School, and the blue is meeting both the English and the reading and writing component benchmark, 41%, and then at the state level in Michigan at 37%. So meeting both of those was a positive thing for our kids. Again, this is our 9th grade spring data, right? So this is our sophomores walking around the hallways. The math also is looking good. We did take a dip in the English, which was just a little bit of a change for us. We've traditionally been above the state level, so we're looking at those areas that are low and then strategically making sure that we have plans for the kids sitting in front of us as sophomores and what we're doing with those students to kind of close the gaps on some of those areas. So, but it is encouraging again. With our math scores, traditionally we've not been as high, and we continue to outperform the state, which has been a new thing. I think most of it has been credited to our new CPM curriculum and being consistent now through the middle school all the way through our junior year. So that's our freshman there. Our 10th grade, same thing. So again, we have 39% to 29 there in the blue. Meeting both those standard benchmarks is a pretty good. We're outperforming the state when it comes to comparison of both of those. So one student passing both tests, right? That is the percentage mark that we're looking at with that meet both. The English 57, the state 57, so right at the state average there. And then again, 44 to 32% of our students meeting that national benchmark for math. So that's a good point there. To note, juniors, you'll notice that the ISD average is in here because it's a mandated reporting test. The 9th and 10th graders are not mandated to report. We always do it, have traditionally done it, so our kids are practiced and ready to go for the SAT and the NMSQT, which we're going to take here this week. But you can see there the blue mark there for these would be our seniors this year. This would be our senior class. They took the 11th grade spring test, a little bit lower there, but still outperforming the ISD, but below the state for meeting both. But you can see that English mark there, fairly high as compared to the ISD and the state. A little bit lower in the math, but again, I think it's hard to say a one-year explanation for things, but we're definitely seeing a trend here after our juniors coming up, consistent math scoring. And our high English scores have always been there, but I think we have kids with a lot more math mind versus that of English mind, and so we don't get both of them sometimes to be there. So, and I think that the only other things to kind of summarize is kind of what we're focusing on, right? Our PBIS, our positive behavior incentives to create a welcoming culture and positive recognition for students and their behavior. That's been a new change. And a continued focus for us and a lot of energy and time. Essential literacy strategies, and I mean for not only best practice English, but also math. And then MTSS is our improved tier intervention, our kids that are beyond just the normal teachers helping them to a certain level. We're intervening with kids a little bit more and having a process more to identify those students, which has increased. And then, our attendance, as Mr. Akam said, I think I had more meetings with students and parents last year about attendance than I ever have in 6 years, and I think it's paid off a little bit, and our parents our kids are really showing up. So kudos to them, and our kids are showing up, which is part of more than half the battle when it comes to improving student performance. And so, And just continuing to look at student growth data with my staff and looking at areas that we need to improve on. So that's kind of a summary for us with proficiency data in the high school. Any questions?
I have a question, and I may have asked this before.
Yep.
So the percentages, that's percent of what?
So it's compared to a national standard, right? So it's College Board and their control of all the national testing and in terms of PSAT and what we now know as the SAT as a college entrance test. So those skills required for students, and they take all the data across the nation, and they find an average or a mean piece, and then we're comparing to a national average. So when we say meet those standards, that's a percentage of our students who have met that standard. And then as comparison to the state, you can see what the state has done.
So that's saying that 40% whatever of our students have met the national standard?
Yeah, if you want to, can you go back?
I just, any number.
Yeah, any number.
But that's so 60% is 60% of our students have met the national standard?
Yeah.
Okay.
Met or exceeded.
What's that?
Met or exceeded.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
All right. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Bill.
Hold on. There we go, sorry. Is that my first one?
I believe so.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, so looking at the NWA for the middle school, I don't like multi-TVs. I'm staring there and I'm pointing here. When we look at end of the year, so that would be sixth grade end of the year, that's when they were as fifth graders coming into us. You'll see kind of all the way through, we do have our summer slide kicks in. That's something that we see getting their brains back into focus. They don't use it for, don't use their brain for 3 months, but they're not using as many of the skills for 3 months, getting them freshened up. We see a big jump when we start doing our winter testing in that. But it gives us a good base to see where do we need to focus some interventions, where do we need to work on some reteaching as we go through, look at the standards that were missed through there. Overall, we're still sitting pretty heavy with the majority of our kids at average, high, average, or high as we go through looking grade by grade. Our sixth grade, we have a little bit more work to do, but I'll talk later, kind of the steps that we're already taking as we jump into theirs. So there's our math comparison. Our reading comparison, much stronger in reading across the board as we come through, keeping those averages higher up. Seventh grade, leaving the sixth grade, going into seventh grade, we kind of had a bigger slide into that group. We're going to be working on that, and I'll address that later too, where our curricular is making sure we're covering everything that we need to grade as we go on that. Science. Science is definitely a strong spot for McBain. All the way through, those kids are holding on to it, and it's quite impressive to see, and it carries into our state testing as well, that we're seeing the same results. So that's an excellent thing, especially when science is always looked at like the extra or one of the first to cut in elementary and middle school. It's more scheduled in, but elementary, it's got only so many hours of the day, math, reading, science when we can, and they're doing a phenomenal job preparing us and keeping that good work going and watching those kids grow. So we're very impressed with that. If you look up here, this is our M-STEP and PSAT. 8th grade is PSAT for English and math as you're looking through that. 6th grade, the state average was 37.5, ISD 34.1. Our 6th graders were in at 36%. That's this year's 7th graders, last year's 6th graders. You can see same thing for math. We were quite a bit lower than the state, and we have some steps we're working to remedy that. And we didn't, looking at this face value, we weren't convinced that this was a full picture of what we were seeing based on our curriculum, based on what we know is being taught, how it's being taught. We wanted to think, is it a transition to go from more of a traditional math style into our CPM? Is it, where's the breakdown as we go through? So we'll talk about that a little bit later as well as we go, but as you can see, going grade by grade, 7th grade really kicks it in, and 8th grade, we're really pulling in the results to go from 6th graders at 25.3 through the CPM curriculum to be jumping 30 points by 8th grade. So the curriculum is there, just are the kids transitioning into it okay? Where do we look at reading skills going across board, 6th grade at 36? If you look at our 7th grade English at 53.8 and our 8th grade at 75.3, especially when you start comparing to the state and the ISD, we are very proud of where our scores are going. But there's definitely a dip when we hit 6th grade, and then we work like mad to get pulled back up again, and we're pulling those results all the way through. Social studies is another one we're very proud of, along with our science, as it's carrying through. And social studies is a hard one to monitor. In 8th grade, we have NWA, science that we can track. Social studies, there's no tracking data. There's no state norms, there's not a lot to go on, so it's all on our teachers. They're really focused on pre and post testing, assessing the kids, making sure they're getting those vocab words in, and it's definitely paying comparatively as you look at the state of ISD. Always room for growth, but it's definitely something that we're quite proud of. In our next slide, when we started looking at our scores for 6th grade, we wanted to see, is there trend data? We want to look at the cohort of kids going through. So we started to, walking all over you. Color coding here, the color code is that group of kids as they're traveling as a school year. If it was the non-presentation mode, it goes back several years of data. But you can see that there tends to be a slide as the kids are approaching 6th grade. And when we get data that shows us coming out of 7th grade, that slide train, just the transition happens and they start to launch again. So we wanted to look at, is it foundational skills that they're gaining? Is it the way that it's presented? What is giving us that kind of the slope and then the rapid takeoff again? Is it everything finally clicking together? So this is just McBain scores here. We wanted to look at the next one is the ISD following the same trend. And typically you do see a very similar trend on ISD scores also, in that kind of start tanking and then middle school they take off again as it goes through, and the next one shows the state. And the state has some of the similar slides going through, but they show less of a dramatic change, just kind of staying as we went through. So we want to know, is it a McBain issue, state issue, ISD issue, and what steps can we do to remedy it? Because even if it is an issue everyone's having, what are we going to do? Because it's still not good enough. We want our kids to go much higher. So some of the steps that we're taking is we have implemented this year, knowing what our scores are coming in, we implemented an intervention class for our 6th grade math students. We identified kids at risk, getting them extra interventions 1 hour a day, filling those gaps, and then we'll switch a semester. Our focus for our school improvement time, our Wednesday morning delayed start, is curriculum mapping, ensuring that we're covering all the standards that need to be covered in the year. How frequently are we addressing them? What are the means? And then we're also spending our school improvement after school time focusing on behavioral. Because if we're working with the PBIS to minimize classroom disruptions, because if the teacher's dealing with discipline, we're not covering content. So it's kind of a trifold effect to address what we're seeing, and we're feeling strong results already based on what we're seeing in our initial just in building testing and observations as they go. Any questions?
So Troy, these numbers, these are percentages?
Yes.
Just the same as what Ryan was presented?
Yep, so if
They're
you
meaning
look,
the same?
yep, so
Okay.
42.9% of students are proficient or advanced proficient.
Okay.
So they met the state
Compared to
standard.
national standard?
Yep, compared to that
Okay.
standardized
All
test
right,
on there.
okay,
This
As we
is
go
for
through.
the state standards.
Yeah.
right, yeah,
Yep, this
Ryan's
is
the
all,
national.
okay.
yep, ours is all comparatively to the state of where they say
Okay.
you should be. Any other questions?
Thanks, Mr. Jensen.
Okay, the elementary data, so I like the bar graph for that visual, just to kind of see where we landed with things. So 3rd grade reading, last year our students advanced and proficient were 55% of all students. The ISD, there were 37% of students. And then the state was about 41%. So did very well comparatively on the 3rd grade reading assessment for M-STEP. And then math, like the middle school and high school, some mixed results there with math, maybe not performing as well as we'd hoped. We were able to outscore the state average, but the ISD average, we were a little bit below there on third grade math. Fourth grade reading did very well. In this group, they were about 65% advanced proficient their third grade year, so we were able to maintain that going from third grade to fourth grade, so very pleased with that. And they did very well compared to the ISD and state. Both of them were between 40 and 45%. Math, they did not maintain their math proficiency score as they did in third grade. They were around 65% for math last year. I'm sorry, the year before. So last year they were at 57%. So a little bit of a dip, but again, that group did very well academically and outscored the ISD and state averages by 20 percentage points. Fifth grade reading, did well there as well, 46%, ISD about 40%, state 43%. And then math, that group did very well with math as well. So very pleased with our math scores overall at each grade level. Very pleased with how our students did compared to the local schools and the state average. Science did really well. Almost 60% were proficient or advanced. ISD was at 40%, the state was at about 39%. And then social studies, 23%, and then the ISD and state were at 18%. So, and a little bit lower there, I think, because the state standards just came out. They finally adopted state standards for social studies. So we finally have a guide to go by. So now we can really look at our curriculum, look at the resources we're using and see, does it address the standards that we've been given? And so that's gonna take a little work to look at that and see if it does, and then how do we supplement that, or do we need something different completely? When it comes to reading and math, we're continuing to use NWEA results to drive instruction. We held data meetings at the end of September, and I had those meetings with each grade level, as well as Jen Gilby from Title and Jen Sook, our literacy consultant, and then Becky was in those as she could be. And we looked at both reading and math for each grade level. We identified goals for the grade level, and then we identified how we were gonna progress monitor those goals and keep track of kids, keep track of groups of kids, kids who were falling below benchmark for this time of year. And we're going to re-meet in November and look at that progress monitoring data so that we're keeping it fresh, so that we're not waiting until January to look at data again and see who's doing well, and then who needs a little more support, and what does that support look like from November to benchmark testing in January. This is just our NWEA scores for the fall. And so I went back to 2020, and we can see, as you look across the grade levels, math is on the left, reading on the right, you can see that kids coming into those grade levels, a lot of those scores are comparable from year to year. So we're seeing them score on average similar to past years. When you look at their cohort and you look from, let's say, kindergarten in 2020, on math they had an average of 144, and then look at when they were in first grade in 2021, they then had an average score of 163, second grade 179, third grade 186. We're seeing good growth across there. We're seeing double-digit growth from beginning of one year to the beginning of the next year academically, and that's true if you look on those diagonals for each of the cohorts. So looking at that, and I know it's a lot to look at, but when I look at that, I'm pleased with the progression we're seeing and the momentum we're seeing across the grade levels from year to year. And that's it. Any questions for me?
Thank you.
Mr. Wisner, I shared the next presentation with you as well. If you're able to project that, that would be great.
Justin.
So you can see our students are performing very well, our teachers are working hard, our staff's working very hard. Compared to the state and the ISD, the district's doing really well, but it's still not good enough for us, and we're already putting plans in place to continue and improve and increase those goals or those scores. So. Apologize about the technology hiccups. So the presentation we're going to show you now is just the survey data that we conducted in May about our culture and climate, where we surveyed staff, we surveyed parents and students. We're gonna kind of just show you some highlights, and this survey is going out again in October, near the end of October, early November, to staff and parents and students first, with opt-out forms being mailed home to parents as well. We discussed this last year. So parents have the opportunity to opt out, but it has some good data for us to show. So if you look at our elementary data, you had 69 total responses from families with an average score of 3.41. That doesn't sound very good until I tell you the scale is 1 to 4, okay? So a 4 scale there instead of a 10 scale, so 3.41 is something to hang your hat on, it's something to be proud of. The highest subscale is for teaching and learning. That scale is that we're guarding and protecting learning time and instruction, and our teachers have high standards for students. And they're working hard to make sure that the students do well. The lowest for the elementary there from parents is school safety, which is 0.07 of a point away from our highest score. So we even though it is our lowest, it is still really strong. And that's five items that the student had clear rules for behavior, felt safe at school, felt safe going to and from school. School rules are consistently enforced and school rules are fair. But you see the score there, my student feels safe going to and from school is a 3.71, which is high. And then sets clear rules for behavior, scored a 3.26, and consistently enforced is a 3.13. So this is also is driving our positive behavior, where we can set the expectations for our students and teach those expectations and keep reteaching them to try to increase those scores. Our student data, we had 206 total responses from students, and our 3 highest items: my school wants me to do well, my school has clear rules for behavior, and there's an adult at my school who helps me if I need it, which I think that one is probably my favorite. That ranks at the highest, is that they feel that there's an adult here that they can go to and that will help them. The lowest items, students behave so that teachers can teach, students treat each other well, and I like school, are the 3 lowest. So some of the students are also seeing that the students, other students' behavior in the classroom, how it can take away from instruction. And the I like school, I'll be honest, there are some days where I don't like school. So you know that's probably a pretty typical one, but a score of 2.68 is still higher than 50%. So our elementary staff data, we had 42 with an average score of 3.3. The 2 highest items are staff connectedness and structure for learning. And then the 2 lowest items were peer adult relationships and parental involvement. And the peer adult relationships is kind of where they monitor students as far as helping each other, treating each other with respect, also behaving in class so that they can be able to instruct. So you kind of structure for learning is definitely one of the highest that you see across all 3 categories. In our middle school, our family data, we only had 44 responses with an average of 3.2. Highest subscale was teaching and learning, and the lowest was parental involvement, which you see typically from going from middle school or from elementary school to middle school to high school. You start to see the parents start to drop off from parental involvement activities. But it's one thing that I think that we need to focus on and work on. How can we get parents more involved? And what are some things that they would like to be involved in? Our student data from the middle school, our 3 highest scores was social and civic learning, school safety and physical environment. And then the lowest were cultural acceptance, school connectedness, and order and discipline, which again, all kind of lumps together with what we're working on and what we were seeing as well. Our staff data, our 2 highest subscales, school safety at 3.68 and structure for learning. The 2 lowest items was peer adult relationships and parental involvement. So the staff see the same things as well. Our high school, 48 responses with an average score of 3.13. High school lowest subscore was parental involvement. I missed the highest, sorry. The highest, again, was teaching and learning, which is great. Everyone sees the value in that, and that we have to protect that, and that our teachers are invested in instruction. Families, the lowest were parental involvement and interpersonal relationships with the school. Next, you see the staff, or I'm sorry, the student data. Their highest also is social and civic learning, peer and social support, and school safety, and then cultural acceptance, again, one of the lower ones, adult social support, and school connectedness, kind of a theme coming up from the middle school. High school staff, their two highest was school safety and structure for learning, and our two lowest were parental involvement in peer and adult relationships. So you kind of see that kind of theme across the schools there. Another kind of special note, one thing that we're really targeting is the positive behavior. You guys have heard me say what gets praised gets repeated. So our goal for the staff is handing out tickets when students are doing what we call the wheel, which is welcoming, honest, engaging, empathetic, and leaders. When the staff see our kids doing the right things and hitting these character traits, they're giving out these tickets. Because one thing that our survey showed is that good behavior is noticed at my school. And if you look across grades 3, 4, and 5, they're all about 2.8. 2.85 would be the average. And then the next grades, middle school and high school, we're hovering right about there, even lower in the high school level. So our kids were noticing that too, that we're doing the right things, it's not getting recognized, it's not getting noticed. So with the efforts of the staff and handing out the tickets, we have drawings every Friday for the kids and for the staff. We're hoping that our October survey, we start to see kind of a little bit of a shift with this data. But we wanted to share this with you before our next survey and just remind you that we have our survey coming out. There's no political agenda. It's just us gathering data to see how we can improve the school. Any questions? Mr. Finster?
So to add to that, we will be meeting as PBIS teams of pulling student performance data, but also our survey data and make action items. How are we addressing the low spots? How are we addressing the concerns that we have? What steps are we going to put in place? So parent involvement, what are things we're going to do? So it's not just, yep, it's low, but those create action items for our next year until our next round of school climate data comes out, both students, staff, and for our families. So it's not just collect and see, but we are going to be building off of that each level, and they're all measurable data points, SMART goals that we can try to monitor to improve, because like we say, it's never good enough. We got to keep going further.
And it's been one of the targets too with our late starts. Staff will be going over data this next late start, as well as what's being entered into our Swiss, which kind of gives where we're having some struggles with behaviors, gives you time of the day, locations. We'll be going over that stuff with the staff too. So it's given us some good data points that we didn't have before.
So tell me what you mean by parent involvement, like more parents here, more parents helping, more parents involved with like parent-teacher conferences, more parents involved with discipline, more parents.
Yes.
What?
Yes.
Okay,
So,
I'm just.
And if you look at the data, I believe it might have been the middle school. Mr. Finster, you might be able to. One of the points was they acknowledged that they weren't involved themselves. Mm-hmm. They weren't putting themselves in situations. They weren't attending parent conferences. They weren't doing those things. So it's one of the things that we've been talking about for the last couple of years is how can we restructure parent conferences, mostly 6 through 12, to get more parents involved. And a lot of parent involvement dropped off, let's be honest, during 2020. When we had restrictions and some of that stuff just didn't come back.
And I think like as a parent, I think a lot of it is just knowing what is needed. I think that's the biggest thing. I think that communication piece out.
When you have a clear communication, like we have great participation with Rambler Dads. That's a program that we don't have in the middle school. And probably most middle schoolers don't want their dad there.
I think you should start it.
So definitely talking points for us and things to look at, yes.
Thank you.
So overall, there's different numbers of responses. Does this represent the feelings of half our district or a quarter of our district, or, I mean, what portion of our district participated in this?
It's, as far as district, it's not, people not involved with the school as far as parents, staff, and students. But if you look at, I don't know if you can click one to the right or left there, Mr. Wisner. How about one more?
I guess maybe I'm more concerned with the parents, how many?
So, go back to that when you were just.
It's like how many high school families
So we
did
only-
Yeah, I
this
mean,
survey, is that what we're
We
asking?
had 48
Yeah,
responses,
out of 300 students.
48 out of 300. So that's not very good.
Could go back to the parental involvement piece.
Yeah.
And
Part of that 48 is that, you know, that could be Becky, and she's got 3 kids in the high school. It would be.
So
She's not
this-
gonna fill it out 3 times.
So this 48, that's 48 kid counts.
Unique.
That's
Student counts.
48 families. So as a parent, you could fill one out for
Oh, okay,
3 kids, so Becky could fill it out one time
Right.
for her 3 kids. It's 48
but that would be one.
families. That's
Okay.
one count, but 48 families represented.
Well, we did ask families, we sent one, if you had a student in elementary, middle, and high school, we asked you to take one for the elementary,
Yeah.
middle school, and high school. We could do better on that, I don't know how we can do better on that, I mean, I'd like to have more data points on that and more involvement, but it definitely gives us a start.
Well, and you always wanna try to encourage people with positive responses to respond, because sometimes, just like reviews, in anything, I mean, the negative stuff tends to show up more than the positive.
So we'll be taking this again in October, early November, and we'll have those data points back again, and it'll be nice for us to be able to compare once we have those and be able to digest those. Thanks, Mr. Wisner.
Could we see that? I mean, could that be sent to us to just look at a little bit more?
This,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I think that'd be a good idea for us to, it's a lot of stuff to look at in 5 minutes.
I'd be happy to share that with you. Do you want both presentations or just?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Can do that.
All set?
Yeah, thank
All
you.
right. So you just wanna continue?
I can. So just kind of give you guys a further update, track, we're continue to make progress on that. We're near the final stages of getting ready to go out for a bid. We're hoping to have an estimate, here pretty soon of what they think that the cost will be and see where we're at with cost, with everything. So definitely super excited about the progress that we're making. We may start it before school lets out. So we may have to make alternate plans for our track meets or not track meets, but track practices and different things. Already been in contact with NMC about that as well as the track coaches. Buses, we're supposed to have them tomorrow.
Whoa,
So super excited about that.
let's have a parade.
Yeah, we just might. Again, we joke, but that has been a source of stress. So we're looking forward to having those here for us and for our students. It's gonna just, as I mentioned to some of you, we were close to maybe canceling a JV football trip or a cross-country meet or self-transport because of our busing situation. So this will help alleviate that for us.
Yeah, I should be able to sleep at night.
Yeah.
So when would we have to start ordering the next round of buses?
Yep, so the state bids just came out October 7th, which is Friday. So we will have to look at what the state bidding is gonna be, what the cost is, and we'll probably order those soon so that we can have them for probably in the spring.
Okay.
That would be the goal, so.
And that'll be three more, right?
Gym floor, bids will go out for the gym floor asbestos abatement here shortly as well. We're working on that. This is a project that depending on cost of items, we might have to delay for a while, delay for a year. I hope not, but for us to be responsible, we might have to do that. One question that I've received from several people is, can we sell the floor, the wood from the floor, auction it off, or we cannot because of the mastic on the floor is also on the wood. They have to abate each wood, each each piece of wood, it's quite costly. So we will not be able to do that. I did talk to them about saving the 4 foot by 4 foot section of the center floor of the M. And maybe possibly doing something with that and putting maybe plywood or something on the back where we could hang that somewhere, or do something with that. And they said that we could do that. So that's kind of where we're at with the gym floor. A lot of things happening. It's one of those hurry up and wait, and then hurry up and then wait for a really long time, it feels like, and then hurry up. We do have another account set up here to open another account with Horizon Bank, 2023 Capital Projects account. This would be for our sinking fund dollars. No, this would be for our debt, or our bond monies that will transfer to this account. And then we'll have separate accounts for our bond and for our sinking fund dollars, which we'll be able to keep track of it, and it'll be better for the auditors. Am I correct with that?
We might need one more. Well, we have the capital project funds, which are the funds that are the bond proceeds that we're spending right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also will have the tax proceeds that come in once we start levying. That has to be in a separate bank account. So we probably will have to open one more. I'm not 100% sure yet on the sinking fund.
Okay.
Funds, if those have to be kept separate. I will reach out about that next, but I've never had sinking funds before, so.
Learning curve for all of us.
Yeah. So, I was hoping that we could figure out a way to pool the capital projects, monies similar to how we do, general fund food service, where we track it internally and have it all in the bank account, but the, auditors, suggested that they thought it was better if we kept it in a separate bank account. So I tried, when I first started this, I was consolidating bank accounts and doing away with, and now we're adding some back again. But
Good problem to have.
yeah,
So we have existing capital project funds before all this. So that will be separate from the sinking fund and from the bond?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Because those,
'Cause I mean, the
those
current-
funds are,
The current capital
different.
improvement fund we have is that a separate bank account too? I mean, that's unrestricted, right?
yes, it is, it's in the MyLeft,
Okay,
in the
all right.
MyLeft account, yes.
But that'll
Yes,
be,
so that
that'll
is
be kept separate from the sinking fund
Correct.
and the bond proceeds, okay.
Correct, yes, so, but I'm keeping track of all that.
Any questions? Thank you.
Moving on to our business manager, Liz.
Okay, so I'll carry on a little bit with those, with the, I believe Scott forwarded out to, or it's in the packet, I'm not sure which, with the listing of the expenditures that we have so far with the capital projects, that's what we call it, and expenditures from the bond sale proceeds. So I'll plan on providing that every month so you can kind of see, where we're at. I'm looking a little bit, I am gonna educate myself a little further on investing those funds. There are such things as like arbitrage, which is, the bond funds are sold like tax exempt, but your interest proceeds and the difference between those, and sometimes some of those interest proceeds have to be returned to the IRS. And so I'm just educating myself a little more on that part of it. I know that has been like on our MSBO listserv, subject that has come up, recently. I think due to interest rates as far as, savings and that kind of thing are starting to go up again. For a while that wasn't a problem because we weren't earning much interest on anything, but, so, and then as we get the sinking fund dollars and we start spending those, I'll do the same. I'll just, provide you guys with a report, each month of what's been spent and what the balance is and.
So Liz, the payment on here, is that full payment for 3 months?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
that looked favorable to me. I mean, if you look back at how we broke down the bond dollars, I figured we budgeted about 140,000 each, and this was a good portion below that.
Mhm.
So that's good.
Wait till the next round.
Yeah, I know. But it's a good start. I mean, it's, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, because this average was below the 140, so.
yeah. And wasn't there a is that bus company that had buses available that? No,
No, those
Yeah.
were gas buses,
okay,
yes.
okay, alright, so,
We wanted to stick with diesel.
okay. Let's see. As far as additional transportation dollars, we're excited that we're going to be getting some. We still really don't know how much we're going to get. As I put in my notes, they're coming up with a calculation of how that's going to be figured, and part of it's gonna be based on the 4094 report that we submit, all the schools submit on transportation expenditures, and some other information as far as miles driven and students driven, but they're still trying to figure out how they're gonna allocate those funds out. I don't know, were you on that meeting today?
I was not able.
And so that seems to be kind of the holdup there right now. They're gonna be doing a transportation study, but they wanna start giving those funds out to the schools. So they're gonna come up with a quick calculation of how they're gonna figure that out. And then probably by year end, that'll be adjusted. And so everybody's kind of being a little reserved on, okay, we'll be excited, we'll get transportation dollars. And by the end of the year, we might get a little bit more, they might take some away. So it's one of those hurry up and wait things. Hurry up, give us the money, but they still have to figure out how they're gonna do that. So that's still in process. As far as a budget amendment, Scott and I really haven't talked about that yet, but I'm looking at probably December. Once we get a better idea on those state aid dollars and where those are gonna come in at, and we have pupil counts now, and just to get a better updated picture of where we're at right now. And then probably do one again in the spring, and so. Working on the FID report, which is an annual report that we have to do every year after the audit is done, and reporting financial information to the state. So that's our deadline this month, so working on that.
All good stuff.
How does the 1,070 student go, how does that compare with our budget base? I mean, is that close to the number we budgeted? Or is...
We budgeted 1,040.
Okay.
But they do, as far as how we get our state aid, that's a blended count where we get 90% of this year and 10% of last year. So, but 1,040 is what we had.
Okay. That's good.
So.
They go with the highest one though, right? If our account's higher than the blended account, or did that change?
Well, we're not on like a 3-year blend. Okay. This is just a 90-10 blend. That is 90% of the current year's count and 10% of the prior year's count is how they figure that and how we get paid our state aid, so.
I just had one other question. I'm not sure this is the appropriate place. One of the things that's been a big topic at the MESB meetings has been the, with a free lunch this year. And there's been a tendency for those forms to not be returned to the school because it doesn't matter anymore. But yet the importance of getting those forms because they affect a lot of other things. Any feel for, or maybe this is your question, where we're at with that? Are we getting those back? Because it does affect a lot of different things other than free lunch, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. And I don't know, have you talked with Tammy?
Yeah, we are better than where we have been of getting those forms back. We did do a raffle for each school, which helped with that and returning those. We tried to communicate the best we could that how important it is because it does affect your at-risk dollars and title dollars.
Well, there were schools that were withholding kids' schedules and withholding in order for the parents to do get the forms back, which I think is rather extreme, but I'm just curious whether we're on track with that or.
And the state is really trying to educate on that. I know every meeting that I've been a part of lately, I mean, that topic does come up and trying to, and they changed the name of the form. It used to be called a household information report, and now they call it, I can't remember the title of it, but to make it more of what it's for. This is a, funding.
I was just kind of curious how we were doing in that.
Yeah, so, and I know schools are all trying to get creative in how they're going to get those forms in and, you know, trying different things. Raffles, candy bars, something, you know, to try to get those forms back in there.
Gets back to that parental involvement thing, doesn't it?
Yes, it does, yeah.
All right,
And sometimes
thanks.
maybe educating on the services, you know, that these services that we're providing are paid for out of grant dollars, you know, because there's might be some parents that don't understand, you know, that, so.
All right, thanks, Liz.
Yeah.
Moving on to our principals. Mr. Wisner, would you like to start this evening?
Sure. To highlight a couple of things that were in my board report, we did do our Rambler Dads Kickoff, and we had a really good turnout. I think there were 120 dads, and between them covered 180 kids of our elementary, if I remember correctly. So, and I kind of figured out that we start in November and then we end of April, so if they each sign up for one day, that's almost every day of the school year from November to April that we would have a dad in the building. We usually end up with some days 2 or 3 in the building, and then some dads aren't able to do it because of their work schedules, but we'll work on getting those scheduled out and starting that beginning of November, so we're excited for that. End of September, we had our 13th annual Fun to Be Fit event. So when you talk about parental involvement, come to that event because we have all kinds of
people,
parents and grandparents and other kids, and it's a good turnout. It's a good turnout to promote health and wellness for our families and to have that half an hour of physical activity. So thank you to Mrs. Sluter and Mrs. Cucci for helping with that. And organizing that, and for Rambler Dads, I should say too, thank you to Jenna Nelson and Kim Schoner and Maria Bivens for helping with that and making sure that that went well. You might have seen the article in the Catholic News about our Friday football readers that has started, and this is the first year in probably 4 or 5 years that we've done it. So really glad to have that going up again. I heard that a student made a comment one day, someone was talking about I don't remember which football player, and it was like a second grader or somebody said, "You're talking about," I'm just gonna say Murphy, I don't think it was Carson specifically, but "You're talking about Murphy? That's my football player, that's my football reader." So just kind of neat to have that crossover, that's what makes us so unique and special, and so just really glad to have that going. Title night was last week. We had a pretty good turnout for that. It gets a little tricky to schedule that now with, you know, athletic events being almost every night. And then Wednesdays, there's a lot of church events. And so we're really trying to find a night that doesn't have so much on it to get more parental involvement, but we had a good turnout. We did like a game night where grade levels chose a game and then they provided parents with instructions and materials for how to turn Candyland into a game about reading or a game about math and how can they build those skills at home. And so the parents and the kids seemed to have a really good time. They left with those materials, and then we had extra board games on hand. If they didn't have Candyland at home, they could take it with them. If they didn't have Sorry, they could take it with them. And so most of those games went home with families. So we're excited about that. And then the last thing I wanted to highlight, and Ryan can maybe elaborate on this, but the Ed Careers program over at CTC, that is run by Amy Solani, that's going again this year. And she contacted me with 4 students that she wants to place in the elementary, seniors who are looking to potentially go into education when they go out to college. And so I think it's a great opportunity for growing our own. And so I'm working on placements for those students, and they'll do 1 placement for 9 weeks here this semester and then another starting in January. So very excited to have them be a part of that program and to be in our elementary.
All right, thank you. Troy?
All right, I jumped the gun and shared a lot of my stuff that's in my highlighted with the data.
That's fine.
But like I said, we're doing our delayed start time. We're really focusing on curriculum mapping and working in departments and also across grade levels to ensure that we aren't just working in isolation, that our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade is cohesive as they travel through. Ensuring that it's been many years since that has been done. So it's vital to ensure we're hitting all of the standards that we need. Our staff meeting time that we meet after school, we're really diving into our PBIS data. Every referral, even if it's would be a minor thing we would never call home for. We're still documenting because it builds a data path to see where are the hotspots, what time of day do we need to change. And a lot of the focus is how do we change adult behavior to support student needs. So do we need more presence in hallways? Do we need more support at different spots? So we're really focusing that time on that and really shoring up our use of PBIS and how are we addressing behaviors and creating our tier 2. Those kids that are struggling, need a little bit more support. What can we put in place right away before they become a major issue? Let's catch it early on before it keeps growing. With the PBIS, the kids are having a blast. Each grade level has now filled their bucket. If you stop in the middle school office, you'll see we have the counter dedicated to our tickets, and each grade level's filled their bucket. So our first celebration we had was popsicles and playground, and it is amazing how much fun middle schoolers have when you take them out to an elementary playground. They said it was the best day of school so far. I mean, if you would have shrunk their size down, you would have swore they were just kids in kindergarten, first time going out there. So we had a lot of fun with that, and that has really increased the amount that the kids are working during tickets, and we are almost filled up again, and we haven't even made 2 weeks. So it's definitely motivating the kids to do the right thing, and the teachers are doing a phenomenal job catching them, doing the right thing as they go through. So we'll continue those grade level celebrations. Once we have our fish tank filled, then we'll go to a school-wide celebration where every child gets to participate and do something fun in that. I was planning wise hoping to be closer to Christmas. It's looking like it'll be a lot closer than that, so I'm gonna change my mindset on that, but we're excited to see the kids continue. We did receive, all 3 buildings now have received grant money through Special Olympics to help support purchase prizes for our PBIS initiative, and we got a display case out in front of the middle school with some really cool McBain gear that the kids are excited to earn some bigger prizes at the marking periods when we draw and hand those out, and the staff are enjoying their prizes as well. So, and a big thank you to David and Becky for taking over and guiding us in our PSAT testing that's coming up this week. Oh, God bless you both.
All right, thank you. Mr. Ryan?
Yeah, I very much appreciate the PSAT testing. There's a lot to go in with state testing and a lot of trainings that Becky attends, as well as David. They're also very good at it. I appreciate Dylan's help and support. This year we are on digital, so the kids are taking their PSAT on their computers. And so it's linked to their College Board account. There's a lot of like readiness check things. So I appreciate their efforts on that. It's always good to have multiple people kind of covering those things. So our tech deck was on it this morning, and it went very, very smooth, I thought, overall. So appreciate them and their work on that. That's a lot of headache and time, but hopefully our kids, it was easy for them. I think sometimes we as adults freak out a little more than our kids. Our kids are pretty savvy on the computers, and I appreciate that. Anyway, this week is our Big Pink Spirit Week, so we're having some Spirit Week things. We do not have a homecoming in the fall time, so I think our kids consistently from the last couple of years have asked to have a Spirit Week during the fall week, and they fall in line with the Big Pink. Tomorrow night, our volleyball team plays at home, and there's a breast cancer awareness fundraiser that they do every year. And so we're very appreciative of the volleyball team and the efforts they did to kind of coordinate with me a little bit. And so the kids have some dress-up days and kind of hopefully ease some of the testing piece on their mind. We do shift our classes and things, and that's disruptive for some of our kids because they're very routine oriented. So if we break that, and so hopefully some of the dress-up days in spirit will shed some hopefully positive light on that. And then also Friday, we are gonna have just a short little parade. Hopefully the weather will holding out for us just around the back of the building in elementary, and then we'll stop at this at the library. Elementary comes out, middle school comes out. We do try to just kind of make it a whole school thing. Again, a unique aspect of our building complex. We can involve everybody in some spirit pieces. We have our home football game with senior night on Friday, so they're also going to wear pink that night as well. So dance Saturday, so we'll enjoy that with some pink out dance. JV volleyball is going to be home that day. But we'll be in the multi-purpose room with the dance, kick off the school year, so kids will have that. That's the biggest thing for us this week. End of the first quarter is already around the corner. I think I wanna make a correction there. It's Friday, October 20th, I believe, is the end of the first quarter, not the 27th. I made a wrong fat finger in there. The 27th, though, is a half day, as well as the 26th for parent-teacher conferences. We were talking about parent involvement. Our parent-teacher conferences are that Thursday, the 26th, okay? And we have a half day 26th, half day 27th, so. But the end of our quarter will be the week before that, 20th, okay? That's pretty much it. For us, I know we've got a choir concert, middle school, high school choir concert coming up. That'll be the next big event, I think, for us after this weekend. Just enjoying everything that we have available for kids, and hopefully the year started off well for our kids, especially attendance-wise. I can't talk enough about it. We talked about it earlier today. There's not many other schools that can boast that big of a attendance rate, and to continue to improve on it, it says wonders for us.
Thank you. On to our committee reports. I believe we have 2 of them.
We had the Building and Grounds Committee.
Yep.
And the Executive Committee met.
Yes. The executive committee, Karen and Ken met. I was absent. But they just talked about the movie coming up. Ken, you watched it, you said.
I watched the entire thing. After a meeting, I watched the entire thing. It's a lot different than the script. If you saw the script, it wouldn't have flown, but I was perfectly comfortable with it. There's a little rough spots here and there, but I think it was intended to promote some really rough times, you know. So you might hear a couple words you don't particularly like, but I think it doesn't overshadow the total value of the show. I highly recommend it.
And so to refer back to it, this is The American Soldier, that is a play coming on October 20th and 21st. We received the script and it had some language in it, and
Couple.
Yep, and so the board reserves the right to cancel shows at the Performing Arts Center. But the actor's been very kind and willing to work with us. I don't even think you knew he was coming to a school. The contract says Ellen Boss Performing Arts Center. So the executive committee met and had their approval to carry on with the show.
I'd be disappointed if there was any negative reaction to it.
Yeah.
And then the Building and Grounds Committee.
Yeah, Building and Grounds Committee, we just met shortly after the last board meeting and talked about the track layout. Basically, that's what we talked about, and where things are gonna go. We're kind of landlocked up there. The good news is we're moving some of our field events. We're gonna be a little bit better for the use of the area, but also we're gonna be able to potentially have a handicap accessible ramp going up to the track by veering it around keeping the main ramp, but having some different type of path for that to make it easier for folks. So, and I think that was the gist of our meeting.
All right, do we have a update from MASB?
Yeah, just a couple things there that's happened since the last meeting. The Government Relations Committee, which I've been assigned to, has met. We met virtual on the 15th, and I'm going a week from Friday again. And this committee, what they do, MASB has a full-time lobby staff, and they look at any legislation that's been introduced or committee work, anything that affects education. They look at it and try to formulate a position. Do we support this or don't we? So that's coming, and then I attended the board meeting in Lansing on the 22nd also. Just gonna take a couple minutes to just kind of give you the flavor of some of the things that are talked about. I've learned very quickly that the legislation moves so quickly. So what might be on my list might be dead tomorrow, it may have died yesterday, we don't know. It's a very squirrely system. Just some of the things that are kind of on the legislative cycle. There's something called the sudden cardiac arrest awareness. That's an effort that's underway that any student or staff, whatever, if they display any signs of cardiac issues, it would require a mandatory review by a cardiologist. Quite a lengthy process. So that's being tossed out there. The opioid antagonist, this has to do with the Narcan. It would require every school to have a trained person in their building to administer Narcan. A lot of this would be administered, as we understand now, through the health department, or coordinated through the health department. There's changes underway for teacher and administrator evaluation, basically removing the student growth factor to a large extent anyway. A big one that's been talked about a lot is the change in the return to work after retirement, where if a teacher retires, when can they come back to work? It's obviously intended to help address the teacher shortage thing. I think this is pretty finalized that they would have to stay out of for 6 months, where it was 9 months, so that period's been shortened. And the earnings limits has been raised, so I think that's kind of finalized, but I'm not sure. There's legislation to repeal the law which requires post-Labor Day school openings. That law is still on the books. Everybody gets an exception to it, but they're just gonna repeal the law. This was interesting, I think it's codification of free meals for all students. There's a move underway that the free meals will be permanent. So that will make it, I think it's codification or codification, what is it? Whatever it is, it will become part of the regular school budget. So that free meals will be automatic for everybody if this goes through. There's some legislation regarding safe drinking water, legislation regarding panic alarms in schools. Some of the stuff just goes on and on. There's one for mandatory dental exams for school enrollment, making a mandatory dental exam. That one's not gaining too much strength, I don't think. There's legislation regarding mandatory staffing levels. This had to do more with emergency firefighters and that kind of stuff, but it would also include schools. There's legislation regarding upgrading in school safety requirements, including common technology between school and law enforcement. Again, a lot of it is very preliminary, but there's legislation which would require us to distribute gun safety information to the homes. This information would be formulated by the state police, but we would be required to distribute it. And there's also some pending legislation regarding the change in interim certifications for special ed staff. So that's kind of in the works too. Those are just some of the things that are in the works. A lot of it will never see the light of day, but some of it might. So it's kind of just good to know. Reminder of everybody for the Fall Leadership Conference coming up, the 9th through the 12th in Lansing. Scott assures me we've got budget to cover anybody who wants to go. So I'd really encourage people to, even if you can't do the whole thing, to do a day. It would be well worth it. Since I've been on this committee, I've had some expenses, but I just want everybody to know that my expenses for this work is covered by MASB. The school isn't paying for that. So yeah, I really encourage some participation in the fall conference. That would be huge. One of the things that I've kind of been vocal down there about is increasing educational opportunities for boards in northern Michigan. They have them in the more populous areas. Kind of trying to coordinate with Dave Cox, so maybe doing something on an ISD basis to help get some education for board members. I think that's very important. So that's kind of been my soapbox down there, is to get more services and educational opportunities in this area. So that's it.
Thank you, Ken. Moving on to our discussion items. Just when we thought we were crossing these off, apparently not so fast.
No. I jumped the gun on legislation as it changed. No, it's kidding. So, yeah, so the LEA, plan use of funds, we're still using the ESSER funds as we had planned. There's been no changes to our plan. We're using them for technology, for mental health, student mental health needs. Our 31 AA mental health, that's the grant monies that schools are receiving. We're finding out more and more information about it, on what's allowable and what's not allowable. But if you have ideas on that, please share. And then return to in-person instruction and continuity of learning. I had taken this off last month, but we needed to put it back on. Basically, we're continuing with the same plan. We're gonna be in school. We're not offering virtual school to our students. If we do have to close, we'll continue to provide services for students. When I say close, due to pandemic or epidemic, or close for extended period of time, not for weather days, which could be approaching in a couple months. So that's what we have.
Very good. Going on to our action items, we have just a few tonight. We need to accept a settlement agreement with Alteria Group Incorporated, Philip Morris USA Incorporated, Alteria Client Services LLC, Alteria Enterprises LLC, and Alteria Group Distribution Company. This has got to do with vape, right?
Yes, the Jewel set.
No, yeah, Jewel, yes.
I'll make a motion.
Support.
Motion support for action item A. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Is it, Ken, did you support that?
Yes,
Yes.
I did.
Thank you.
Action item B, approve McBain Schools Cardiac Emergency Response Plan.
Yep, this is our response plan that we've had in place. Just found out, actually, I wonder if it has to do with this bill that you just read, Ken, that it has to be board approved. So this is the plan that we had in place last year. Everyone on the plan is CPR trained and certified. We also have additional staff that are trained in CPR. This is just staff that's available to just lead when they have to and help assist, so.
Make the motion.
Support.
Motion support, any discussion?
I just want to note, so this doesn't include anything to do with the mandatory medical exams before
No.
they return, or
This is just
upfront?
Schools have had these plans
Yeah,
in place
okay.
for years, so.
Yeah.
You said if we ever have an episode or that we need to respond to, we have a plan in place.
Okay.
Okay, we have motion and support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Action item C, authorized to open a Horizon Bank account named 2023 Capital Projects account.
Motion.
Support.
Motion support to open a capital projects account with Horizon Bank. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And on the backside, action item D is MASB delegate nominations for MASB conference.
Yep, and Ken had pointed this out to me that I was not aware of. We need to appoint a delegate to go to the conference to cast a vote for McBain schools. As of now, I think the only one that I know of attending the conference is Ken. We have to have this submitted to MASB before October 21st, I believe. 13th, I think.
I'll make a motion.
If I could just explain what this is, on Thursday night of the conference, there's a delegate assembly, and all the schools in the state are represented, hopefully. And they vote on MASB positions, resolutions, whether they agree or disagree with whatever. It's just kind of establishing the policy for MASB and that kind of thing. I had a chance this afternoon to review past resolutions that's been passed. some of them are not very agreeable. I don't think would be very agreeable to us, but, you know, maybe they'll be looked at someday, but it's our voice in approving or disapproving what comes forth, so.
We have a motion.
Support.
Motion support for Ken to be our delegate, correct? Is what we're voting on here?
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion support for Ken to be our MASB delegate. Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Moving on to public comment. Seeing none, I don't believe we'll have any tonight. Board roundtable. Anything anybody wants to discuss briefly?
Someday, when it's not a long meeting, we're going to talk about school calendars.
Okay.
Okay. But not tonight.
Make a motion, we adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Motion and support, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
I found out of them about this and, so they can send this information. And there must be multiple.
You had the ace up your sleeve the whole time.
Lisa said she must have missed it. When I talked to her, she contacted us. She said, no, so I don't always have someone go.